Welcome. Hey, it's Michael O'Neill, your friendly Green Party of New York organizer, and this is how Greens can get things done. And I am broadcasting to you from a sultry Syracuse Sunday afternoon. As we do every week at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, I am presenting to you some of the tips and tricks that will make your efforts to build the Green Party wherever you are a lot easier, helping you with, as we worked with last week, graphic design. Boy, that was a marathon episode. That was over an hour long. Today's episode is going to be a lot shorter than that. I got to tell you, there's so much to talk about graphic design, especially for non-graphic designers, right? There's a lot of things that we need to produce to get our message out there. We want to do it in as attractive manner as possible. So I covered a few basics last week, but I could do a whole episode dedicated to Inkscape. I could do a whole episode dedicated to the software of Scribus, and there's even more beyond that. But that's not for today. Today we have a different topic. Today we are talking about how you can find your fellow Greens, your fellow registered Green Party members, using freely available data from your local Board of Elections. But before we get into that, I just want to say thank you to the Greens of the Finger Lakes and Southern Tier. They had a fantastic gathering in Ithaca, there in Tompkins County, just yesterday. I just got back a couple hours ago from that gathering. It was a wonderful day at Robert Tremaine State Park of food, fantastic forest surroundings, of discussion, debate, presentations, and camaraderie. A great time was had by all. Thank you to Rachel Treichler and everyone else who worked together to produce that event. And boy, I gotta say, it's a template for how Greens should be getting together all across the state. Find a park, find a park with a pavilion that you can use either cheaply or for free, and just set aside an afternoon. People can come out with the whole family. The kids can play in the playground, and the Greens can talk about how to build power for this movement. So if you're interested in maybe reaching out to Rachel and the other Greens who helped put this together, you could start by contacting the Steuben Greens. They're on Facebook, and you can also maybe just Google Steuben Greens. That's the Greens of Steuben County, and reach out to them. Find out how did they do it. And or if you want to reach out to them through me, my email is michael@gpny.org. Again, that's michael@gpny.org. So big shout out to the Greens of the Finger Lakes and Southern Tier for a fantastic event yesterday. So this is going to be a relatively short episode. It's going to be about 30 minutes, and we're going to go through some examples of how to work with Board of Elections data, how to get that data, and how to work with it and the tools that you'll need to do that. So why do you need Board of Elections data? And what am I talking about? I'm talking about the list of registered voters that are on file and available to the public at every county Board of Elections throughout the state, and then also the state Board of Elections office. So when you register to vote, your name and contact information, at least your mailing address or the address that you've registered to vote at, and if you volunteer your phone number, those are available through voter registration requests from the Board of Elections. And the Board of Elections is the public body that handles elections and all things related to that. It's the DMV, or the post office, of all things voting and campaigning in New York State. So, what are you going to do with this data? Well, you need it when you're petitioning, as we covered in episode 1. When you're petitioning to get on the ballot to run for office as a Green, you need signatures from your registered Green Party voters in your district to get on the ballot. How are you going to find them? You go to the Board of Elections. You get that data. And so if you are campaigning for office in general, you definitely want to find out who and where your party members are. And also you want to work with voter data from people who are not registered in any party or the other parties, so you can do voter ID and target your voters and reach out to them, figure out how many votes you need to win that election. Those topics will be covered in future episodes. So other reasons that you might want to get Board of Elections data, even if you yourself are not immediately running for office or for state committee. Well, it's a good thing to know who the members of our party are. It's a good thing because you want to invite them to events. You want to invite them to important meetings where you are deciding important business for your county organization, or when you're aspiring to become an affiliated county organization. You want to reach out to those registered Greens. We're a political party. We are a ballot status political party. And so the registered Greens are the membership of our party. They are who we are ultimately accountable to as party officers, as candidates, and as party activists and organizers. So we got to know who they are. Now look, honestly, when people fill out a voter registration card, people might have different reasons for checking off the party that they check off. Maybe they check it off just out of curiosity. Maybe they check it off because they are passionately committed to that party, or they want to become passionately committed to that party. Or maybe they check it off just as a lark. So you're going to get different reactions when you reach out to Greens. And so you always want to be courteous to people, you want to be patient with people, and you want to meet people where they're at. Keep an open mind and understand that, there are opportunities out there to talk to people about this party, what we're about, what we're trying to do, what we're fighting for. All right, so other ways that you might use this voter registration contact data. Like I said, you can get phone numbers with this. So you can give Greens a call and invite them to an upcoming event, or tell them about, for instance, our initiative for single-payer universal health care across New York State that we're fighting for. You can send them a birthday card, send a handwritten note inviting them to an event, or just asking them to meet a cup of coffee and ask them why they've joined the Green Party and if they'd like to discuss that with you, if they're curious about that. People are so disenfranchised from politics. They feel so isolated from the political process that a lot of people are going to appreciate that they are being reached out to from a fellow party member, as long as you are doing it in a courteous and polite way, in a warm way that is inviting them to participate or learn more, but also in such a way that you don't come across as intrusive, or that they don't feel like their privacy has been compromised in some way, because most people don't really know that when they register to vote that their contact information is accessible in that way. So those are some reasons why you might want to use voter registration data. So now I'm going to talk to you about how to get that voter registration data. So to do that, you are going to go to your friendly county board of elections. And I'm going to talk about why that is in just a moment, as soon as I can find my mouse cursor here. And let's transition to the magic window here so you can see what I'm seeing. All right, so we are once again back at our old friend, the New York State Board of Elections website. And when you go to the New York State Board of Elections website, which is at elections.ny.gov, you see on the left-hand side that there is a under County Boards, right here in the main navigation menu, under County Boards, you are going to just click on that, and it takes you to this page where it lists all of the county boards of elections. And there's a PDF that you can open. I've actually never opened this PDF, so we're gonna watch it together for the first time. And in this PDF, it gives you contact information, kind of a more of a text-oriented format, a readable format. It also gives you the ability to just click on a map. So if you know where you live, I live in Onondaga County, which is where the city of Syracuse is located. Maybe you live in Long Island in either Nassau or Suffolk County. Or maybe you live in New York County, which is the borough of Manhattan. Or maybe you live in the Capital District, which is, well, I guess that would be like around Saratoga, Fulton, Hamilton, Schenectady, Rensselaer, Albany, of course. That's where the actual capital is. And so you just click on that county. I'm going to click on Oneida County here, and when I do that, it takes you to a page where you get a link to email that county board of elections, and then you can also visit their county homepage. And so when you click on that, I'm looking at Oneida County Board of Elections website, and what you're going to do is you're going to contact them, and you are going to, I recommend, if this is your first time, give them a call, and you are going to be asked which commissioner you want to speak to or which side of the office you want to speak to. That's because in New York State, the Board of Elections is a partisan-run entity. So the parties that get the top 2 amounts of votes in the gubernatorial election each get a commissioner appointed to the State Board of Elections and then also the County Board of Elections. So in our current 2-party duopoly corporate state, those top 2 parties are the Democrat and Republican parties. So each county board of elections is going to have a Democrat commissioner and a Republican commissioner. Why do we have partisan commissioners of this public office? Well, for partisan control of the elections process, right? To ensure that the elections process continues to be dominated by those duopoly corporate parties. But we're not going to get into that right now. My experience with county and also the State Board of Elections is that no one is going to overtly try to obstruct you from getting the information that you need. They may not treat you with a very high priority as a Green. You may have to follow up with them. You might raise a couple eyebrows because they're not used to seeing Green Party people coming around and asking for voter data. You just want to be assertive but polite. You want to follow up with people. You want to know what your rights are and know what you're asking for. And if you don't get what you asked for the first time, go back and ask again. And if you really find that there's a pattern of people not treating you right at the Board of Elections, make sure you're documenting that. Document who you're talking to, which side of the office that you're talking to. Is it the Republican side or the Democrat side? And get in touch with the state Green Party if you find that the County Board of Elections is being obstructive and not meeting your rights as a registered voter and as a party member in this state. So you're going to contact them, you give them a call, and ask them how to request voter registration data, that you're a member of the Green Party, you're interested in getting a list of registered Greens, and what's the best way to do that. Some might give you an email address that you send an email to. Some might send you to an online form where you request the information through that form and you provide your contact information for them to send it to you. They might refer to what's called a FOIL request. This refers to Freedom of Information legislation, FOIL, F-O-I-L. A FOIL request, you are accessing information that is covered by the Freedom of Information legislation for New York State. So you're going to ask them, I would like a copy of the registered Greens in my area, I would like it digitally, and I would like it ideally in a spreadsheet, either as a .csv file, which stands for comma separated values, or you can just ask for something compatible with Excel. Now, they might send it to you as XML, and if they do, just go back. When I say go back, I don't mean necessarily physically go back to the Board of Elections. You can do this over email and just ask them, can you please send this to me as a CSV? And if they say no, they have to send it to you as an XML, then we can still work with that, but that's probably going to be a different episode. For this episode, for the time that I have, we're just going to talk about working with comma separated values or what's called a fixed width file. So you ask them to email you this information. If you want it printed, first of all, I don't recommend getting it printed, because if it's printed, then you can't do the cool sorting and filtering that I'm going to show you in just a moment. Second of all, if you get it printed, then you're going to have to pay for it. It's usually not that much, depending on how populous your county is, like how many people are in there, how many registered Greens are there. It's probably going to be a few bucks. You can get it on a CD-ROM if you want, but the easiest thing and usually the cheapest thing is just for them to email it to you. And I've not had a problem with county boards of elections doing that across the state. So you have requested your CSV file. You want to make sure that you request the phone numbers along with it. So when you specify that you want your list of registered greens, ask them to please include the list with phone numbers in it. You will get some phone numbers, and some of them will be helpful. Many of them will not be, because people move, that people change phone numbers and they don't update their voter registration. But you will reach at least a few people that way. All right, so let me show you what this kind of list looks like. All right. Now, what you're looking at here is just garbage data, basically. This is not real Board of Elections data. This is all like just randomly generated and associated with each other. So don't go looking up Dominic Diaz in Brooklyn. There probably is a Dominic Diaz in Brooklyn, but he's not a registered green, so leave him alone. This is just a snippet of information that I generated for the purpose of this tutorial. And what you want to do is you're going to ideally get it as a .csv file. And again, that stands for comma separated values. You don't have to really know what that means. You're going to open it in a spreadsheet program. And the spreadsheet program that I'm using right now is LibreOffice. Libre, L-I-B-R-E, Office. You also may have heard of OpenOffice. And so LibreOffice and OpenOffice are both free Office suite applications. They come with a word processor, spreadsheet, presentation viewer and composer, and some cool other things. And they're both free. So if you don't have Microsoft Office at home, if you don't have your own copy of Microsoft Office, you can just look up LibreOffice and you can download it for free, install it. Perfectly legal, perfectly safe. It works great. I've been using it for, gosh, like 15 years now, maybe more. And it's great. So we're using LibreOffice to look at this data, and we're using a program called Calc. And I actually find that LibreOffice Calc has more user-friendly filters and sorts than some versions of Microsoft Office. So I haven't really worked much with the latest version of Microsoft Office. Maybe their filters are easier now, but I've found that LibreOffice Calc is easier to do some of the filters that we're going to talk about now, as opposed to Microsoft Office. So even if you have Microsoft Office on your computer, you might still want to pull down LibreOffice. It's free, right? What do you have to lose? And you might like it better for the kind of work that we're doing. All right, so we've got some data here, and when you get this data, it's actually not going to have column headers like we have here. So the column labels of like last name, first name, middle initial, name suffix, house number. Note that the way you and I would probably type an address into a spreadsheet if we were like taking names at a street fair, we would probably do the, so let's look at just the first line, right? So it's 1219 St. Mark's Avenue, Brooklyn, and this one does not have an apartment, but let's just say this one is apartment 1E, right? All right, so the way a regular human would probably read this or write this down is 1219 St. Mark's Avenue, apartment 1E in Brooklyn, 11225. But as you can see, those columns, those pieces of data have been broken up in a slightly strange way on this spreadsheet. So instead of 1219 St. Mark's Avenue being all one field, they have it broken up into two different columns. And for whatever reason, they put the apartment before the street name. I don't know why. You can rearrange that if you want in your spreadsheet. And then Brooklyn is its own field, and then zip code. This will be whatever city that you're looking at, whatever city appears as their mailing address. And then they have if they receive their mail at a different address than where they reside, that will be specified there. Then you got some date of births. It goes year, then month, then day. Gender, political party, we're just looking at Greens right now, so it comes up as GRE. And then it gives you their different districts for, so their election district, which is like where they go to vote, or it has to do with that. Their assembly district, which is their representative for the state assembly. Council district refers to city council. state senate district, civil court, judicial district, the date they registered to vote. Now this is an important one. For a moment, I will get to in just a moment. And then the last year that they voted, and then their telephone number if they have it. So when you get the data, it's not going to look as pretty as this right now. And let me just specify that I'm working with a template from the New York City Board of Elections. Different county Board of Elections might have variations on this template. And when you get the data from you, they're actually going to send you at least two files. One is the actual voter registration data. The other file is going to be some kind of a Word document or a text file that tells you the order that the data appears in within the voter file, and that way you know how to label the different columns. So let me show you how to import this kind of stuff. Oh, so here's an example of a voter file layout document. So again, this came from the New York City Board of Elections. Your mileage may vary with different counties, but and go ahead, if you just get a text file with a jumble of letters and numbers in it, go back, call them up or send them an email and say, hey, do you have a voter file layout guide so that I can work with this data? Be polite, but be assertive. You are entitled to this information. So this layout document tells you the order that the different information appears, so that you know that it goes house number, then house number suffix, then apartment number, then street name. And in this case, we're working with what's called a fixed width data format. So when you open this up in LibreOffice, and it's very likely that the data that you're going to get will be already set in a comma separated values, and you won't have to go through this step, but in case you do, I want you to know at least the basics. So a fixed width format means that the spreadsheet does not have a built-in guidelines for where the columns should fall. What separates the last name from the first name in this document of data, right? Because to the computer, it's all just bits and bytes, letters and numbers. To make it human readable, if it's a fixed width format, we actually have to insert where the guidelines are. And that's what these little lines and these little red nubbins, I don't know if you can see it on your screen or not, but you're actually, if it's a fixed width format, you're going to go in and manually just click and it will set up a new guide. Think of them as like guardrails, right? And you drag to the position within the document to divide the different columns. And so the layout guide will say the last name field starts at notch 10 and it ends at notch 39. So I would drag this over to notch 10, and then the next notch would be over at 39, which is one before 40, right? And by the notches, I'm talking about these little hash marks that run along the top of this little opening window dialog. Now, the values that you see here on this screen are not correct because I've already worked with this data, and I'm not really able to replicate how it's broken up from a fresh Board of Elections fixed width file. So you have to use your imagination a little bit. But if you get a file, especially if it ends in .txt, sometimes even .csv, you might have to put in these notches, and LibreOffice will recognize it if you open it through the calc program, and it'll give you this opportunity to put in your little guardrails. And it's a little bit tedious, but the good news is that once you do it, LibreOffice will remember those settings, and it will correctly and automatically put in those guardrails the next time you open up a document of that kind. And also for that particular voter file, you're going to want to save it as an Excel file or a .csv file, Excel or ODS, so that you preserve those guardrails in the future. And this raises the question of how often should you go through this process? How often should you request voter data from the Board of Elections? At least every year. And you want to do that because you want to get the freshest Greens who have just registered to vote. You want to do it, shortly after the election. You want to do it in April when, like, technically the new voter enrollment statistics come out, and get it as often as you need it, but only as often as you need it. All right, so that is the import dialog screen. And so once you've imported it, you will insert a row at the top. So you can right click and insert row above, and that's where you're going to type in your column labels so that you can easily read and work with this data. And it'll also come in handy when we do some sorts and filters. I already have my column rows, or I should say my column headers labeled, so I will just go with that. All right, I'm going to show you briefly here a few different applications of this. I'm going to show you how to find the newest registered Greens in your county. I'm going to show you how to generate something approximating a walk list, which is all of the Greens on one street, or basically, so that you can then identify if you were actually walking house to house from registered Green to registered Green, a logical way to walk that route. And then I'm going to show you how to filter for Greens that have phone calls. Now, the list that I'm working with here only has like 20-some pieces of information in it, like 20-some rows. You are going to be working with hundreds, if not thousands, of registered Greens when you download your list from the Board of Elections. And so that's why these filtering and sorting tools are so important. So what do we got here? So I've got about 27 names here, and these are all associated with Brooklyn, but like I said, it's garbage data, so it's all arbitrary for the most part. But let's say I want to find the Greens in my county who have most recently registered to vote. I'm going to do a filter. And a filter, no, actually I'm going to do a sort, pardon me. So a sort is where the spreadsheet will rearrange the order of the rows that you're looking at so that they are ordered by some standard that you've imposed. And you could do it by alphabetical order by last name, or you could sort it by alphabetical order of city, or you could sort it by zip code, or by city council district. In this case, we're going to sort this file based on who registered to vote as a Green most recently. Now, how do I know that? Well, I know that because their voter registration date is listed, right, in here, column AB. And the way it's listed is that the most recent date is going to be the largest numeric value in the set of data, right? So this person registered to vote in the year 2000 on July 17th. The year 2000, July 17th, as it's written in this format, is a larger number than the year 1998 and the month of August and the day of 18, right? So a Green who has registered more recently is going to have if you were to treat that like an actual number as opposed to a date, it's going to be a bigger number. And so we can use that trick to our advantage. How do we do that? Well, I'm going to select the entire data set by clicking the little corner thing up here. And then under data, I'm going to go to sort. I'm going to make sure under options that I have range contains column labels, because it includes column labels. And for sort criteria, I'm going to do registration date in descending order. So that means the larger number value is going to be at the top of the spreadsheet. So I click descending for registration date. I click OK. It has now changed the order of this spreadsheet. So now Ann Apollo is at the top as opposed to whoever I was looking at before. And so Ann Apollo is at the top because and Apollo's registration date is 2016 for March 22nd. So Anna became a green 2016, March 22nd, as opposed to the next one down, which is 2015, September 12th. Now, again, I'm only working with a very limited number of data sets in this spreadsheet. When you're talking about hundreds of greens, then it's much more likely that you're going to have a green who registered a couple months ago or 1 month ago or whatever. Depends on how fresh your list is. So to find the greens who have registered most recently, you go to Tools, you go to, you go to Data, then Sort, Registration Date, because I have Range Contains Column Labels turned on, Registration Date, and Descending. And when you do that, your most recently registered greens will be on top. So you can see here it goes 2016, 2015, 2014, 2013, 2012. So it goes from most recent to into the more distant past. So why do you want to target greens who have most recently registered? Two really big reasons. Number one, greens who have most recently registered are more likely to be enthusiastic about that because they just made that decision. That decision is fresh in their mind, and they've just begun their relationship with the Green Party, and this is an opportunity for you to get them on the right foot and to get them involved and help them understand that this is a people-owned party and that we welcome their participation. The other thing is that people who have registered as Greens most recently are more likely to have accurate contact information in their voter registration file. So for where they have a phone number, it's more likely that that phone number is still going to be correct. So that's two big reasons to use that filtering mechanism to find the greens who have registered more recently. Now, if you wanted to find the greens who are youngest, like let's say you wanted to recruit people for the Young Greens Caucus, then you could do the same thing and just do a sort by birth date, the same way that you did a sort by registration date. Only that will sort people by age, with younger people having a larger date value than older people. So, I want to show you how to do a walk list. All right, so this is another sorting activity. So we are going to, again, select our entire spreadsheet, and we're going to sort this actually by a couple different values. So we're going to go to Data, and then Sort, and we're going to sort by street name, ascending, and then we're also going to sort by house number, ascending. And when we do that, you'll see that now our Park Place greens are all grouped together, and our Prospect Place greens are all grouped together. And it actually would give you their house numbers in order. So it would go 486 Prospect Place, then 739 Prospect Place, then 780 Prospect Place. So if you wanted to actually walk down Prospect Place, you would be able to follow your list and knock on those doors in the order that they appear for you. So that is how you do a filter for creating something approximating a walk list. You could also, if you're talking about areas where the streets are very long, you could do what's called a filter so that they're only within the election district or assembly district or city council district that you might be petitioning for, that you might be running for office for. How do you do a filter? Well, I'm going to show you how right now. So up to this point, we've just been doing what's called a sort. And so now I'm going to show you how to do a filter. A sort changes the order of the data as it appears in the spreadsheet. A filter will actually hide rows that do not match the criteria that you specified. So a really important filter to run, again, I go under Data. This time I'm going to go to More Filters, and then I'm going to go to Standard Filter. I've got under Options, I've got Range Contains Column Labels, and then I will select Telephone. And under Telephone, I've got Equals, and I'm going to say Not Empty. So when I do that, it shows me just the registered Greens who have phone numbers on record. And when you're talking about a list of hundreds of, or maybe even thousands of registered Greens, it's really helpful to say, okay, just show me the ones who have phone numbers because I want to make some phone calls. I want to do some phone banking, either for an event or whatever. And so this shows you just those Greens who have phone numbers. Then you can copy this, right? And then open up a new tab or a new sheet within your spreadsheet, and then you can paste that. So then you have a sheet where you just have the Greens with phone numbers, and then to turn off your filter in your master sheet, you will click under, again, Data, More Filters, click Reset Filter, and now you're back to viewing your whole list. So you can sort by any criteria, you can filter by any criteria. And you can be really creative. You can say, show me just the Greens who have registered between 2016 and 2017. There's a lot of different ways to parse this data. The important thing is that you use this data to actually reach out to registered Greens and get together with them, get them together with each other, start talking to each other, find out the issues that they care about, find out how they want to get involved, find out what talents and skills that they have to contribute to the effort. And that's the name of the game. That's the point of all this, is to get people together and working together to build the kind of movement that we need. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to cover. We're a little bit over time. We can always come back to this in the future. Feel free to post your questions and comments in the comment stream for this live stream. Even if you're watching it after the fact, I welcome you to post your questions there. I will be reviewing it. You can also email your questions and comments to me at michael@gpny.org. Again, that's michael@gpny.org. This has been How Greens Can Get Things Done. I've talked to you about how you can find voter registration data at your Board of Elections. I've told you about the software you can use to work with this data. It's called LibreOffice or OpenOffice, and it's a free office suite that you can use to do all kinds of work. And I've shown you how to use sorts and filters to target certain kinds of Greens or certain kinds of parameters that you might use for different applications such as petitioning, canvassing door-to-door, or doing phone banking to get registered Greens to an event. Thank you so much for watching. Please share this live stream series with your Green comrades and allies. Please share it to your local Green groups. I am doing this with the hopes that people are finding it and watching it and that it's useful for them. If there's a topic you'd like me to cover in the future, let me know. Again, I'm michael@gpny.org. My name is Michael O'Neill. I'm your friendly Green Party of New York organizer. And this has been How Greens Can Get Things Done. I will see you next week, Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And we will enjoy another episode. And I look forward to your questions, comments, and anything else that you might have for me. So thanks again, and have a wonderful Sunday.